a world shaped by ideas and innovation, knowledge has the power to transform lives. At Makerere University, research lies at the heart of this transformation, driving progress in technology, medicine, agriculture, business and beyond. Ranked among Africa's leading institutions, Makerere continues to turn bold ideas into real-world solutions that impact communities locally and globally. At the center of it all are PhD students, curious minds pushing boundaries, asking important questions, and creating knowledge that matters. We explore their journeys, their research, and the impact they are shaping for the future.
Research plays a very vital role in the development of any community, and in this regard, Makerere University continues to play a significant role in advancing knowledge. This year, we are graduating over 200 students with PhDs. This is the highest number of PhDs that the university have recorded in 1 year. We thank the university for this achievement, and I think last clap for the university. And so Makerere continues to play a very significant role in the development of our country and indeed to some extent our continent.
The First Lady of the Republic of Uganda, she has sent me to deliver her message at this 76th graduation ceremony. Permit me, first of all, to convey her very warm, cordial greetings to this congregation and her very best wishes to the graduates. And here I deliver her message. In the recent years, the government of Uganda, under the able leadership of His Excellency General Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, has deliberately deepened investment in higher education, particularly in areas of research, innovation, infrastructure, and academic development. We have prioritized transforming our universities into factories of national development and solution-driven knowledge production. I wish to elaborate in a few investment areas among others. Number one, a key milestone has been the Makerere University Research and Innovation Fund, which has been established to support high-impact research and innovation that directly contribute to national priority and development. Through these funds, over 1,000 of researchers and innovators at Makerere University have been able to pursue practical and scalable solutions that improve lives and strengthen sectors across Uganda. To the graduates, today you have earned degrees and you have equally equipped the tools to solve problems. You have been trained not only to seek employment, but to create jobs, job opportunity. Uganda and Africa need innovators who will modernize agriculture. We need engineers who will build quality infrastructure, healthcare professionals who will strengthen healthcare system, and educators who will inspire the next generation. The world you're embracing is dynamic. The world is interconnected and technologically driven. Artificial intelligence is reshaping industries. Climate change is redefining agriculture and urban planning. Global markets are transforming employment patterns. I therefore ask you as you go out, the future of your work demands you to adapt to the changing world, to be creative, and it requires a lifelong learning. Our country needs professionals who are not only competent, but also ethical. Professionals who refuse corruption, leaders who place service above sales. Our vision is clear. Universities must not produce graduates. They must produce solution makers and job creators.
My research was really about looking at patients who have end-stage kidney disease. End-stage kidney disease is kidney failure in layman's terms. So trying to see how patients with kidney failure live their lives. So looking at the quality of their lives. And I was comparing patients who are on dialysis versus patients who are receiving conservative management. So conservative management is essentially a palliative approach to patients who have kidney failure. So the problem is that in our community, kidney failure, as we know, it is a silent killer. Most patients present when their kidneys have already failed. And because of that, they have to be on other modalities that replace kidney function. So things like being on dialysis or needing to have a kidney transplant. And those are expensive modalities for people. So if someone cannot afford this expensive modality, what option of care do you give them? So I was looking to see, comparing the two and looking at what 1 year survival is like for patients amongst those two groups. So we found that patients who choose to be on dialysis, survival is as short as for patients who don't choose to be on dialysis. And that means that patients are spending a lot of money, and that expense results into not just the patient losing income, but also the family members losing a lot of income. So the application of the study is that we are then able to tell patients that if you're going to have dialysis, you need to have proper dialysis so that you're able to get an output for your investment in your health, because it's investment in your health. But also that if you're not able to have that dialysis, there's options of care where you may not have survival, but at least you will have symptom control. You will not have as big a symptom burden as you would have had without this other modality of care, although it will not give you survival. So going forward, the next thing then would be to find out the different types of support that we give for symptoms, how good are they, and how do they actually help the patients, but also to see how we can improve the dialysis that we provide so that patients are able to get returns on their investments. So one of the things that we found because of the research that we did was that we need to improve our dialysis modality, how we are giving dialysis, and that's one of the things that we're actually doing nowadays. We're encouraging patients that they need to do dialysis properly, okay? It's not a treatment where you say, okay, I will maybe do 2 times instead of doing one time, or I'll maybe buy this and not buy this. So we're giving patients the information that when you do that, you will spend money, but you will not get a good outcome.
Research is expensive. Research needs money. And maybe the government should come in and we have ourselves funding our research. Because yes, we are doing a lot of research. Sometimes we are funded by outsiders and we are attending to the interests of outsiders because it's their money. If we have our own money here and we are able to identify problems among communities, surely this research will lead to development of solutions. We have already seen this happening. We have people who are converting the indigenous knowledge in pharmacology into good products that are helping the country. And I think that the brains, the people, the resource is available. We just need to facilitate them with the necessary infrastructure for research, the labs, and so on. And then, of course, you need the funding to actually do the research.
So we want to see that the children of Uganda learn effectively and are competitive not only in Uganda, but across the whole world. So so that they can compete with children in other countries to also get international jobs, international consultancies, and be able to come up with projects to innovate. Now, for you to be able to do that in this century, in the year 2026 and beyond, you need to have that understanding of how to utilize a computer to get work done. Therefore, this PhD supports that entire process as an integrated model and an integrated direction of guiding how we succeed in implementing projects to help Ugandan children to become better and better in utilization of technology for success.
This is going to assist the regulators of education because they put laws and maybe they are not keen on what is taking place on the ground. So I hope this research is going to transform the relationship, the power dynamics between head teachers and proprietors in for-profit schools.
All right, my name is Efrance Eunice Namugenyi. I've just completed a doctorate in software engineering at COSIS, the College of Computing and Information Sciences. My research was basically about developing an adaptive network architecture for transfer of sensor data for specifically beehive management. So looking at farmers in general, our local farmers, and looking at the nature of bees and how if they are disturbed, you cannot effectively or keep going to the farm consistently. So using my IT skills, I was able to come up with an Internet of Things IoT platform that was able to monitor the behavior of bees. And in the way, you end up communicating to the farmers and letting them know the conditions of the hives at the moment. So already that is a project for the community and basically benefiting farmers and people that look after insects. And of course we have fruit flies as well that are pests and predecessors, yes, to crop farming. Yeah, so this has been my research, and I believe it is basically helping the agricultural sector.
I'm a teacher of mathematics education, and currently I'm a teacher educator. I teach teachers, primary teachers, and so my passion that really triggered me to come to this course was the interest I have in the learning of mathematics by learners in primary schools, which I refer to as the foundation of education. I got an opportunity of getting a scholarship by Kabute. Kabute is capacity building in research for teacher education. So when I got this opportunity, I had to delve into the most challenging area of mathematics, the learning of mathematics, and that is how mathematics is taught in the primary schools. And I wanted to venture into technological tools that you can use, that can be accessible and that can be used by even young learners. And that's when I went into investigating the tool called GeoGebra. GeoGebra is a software that we use to teach mathematics concepts. And I only focused on one that I discovered from different research that is really challenging teachers to teach, that is three-dimensional geometry. And because this tool is able to help learners to visualize, they are able to visualize objects, they are able to manipulate. And so I went further into investigating how we can use this. So my project has been basically using GeoGebra as a mathematical tool that we can use, and I combined it. I used it to enhance problem-based learning. I believed, and I still believe, that learners can learn better when they are challenged with the problems, rather than teaching them, giving them formulas, giving them the procedures of working out mathematics problems. I would rather give them challenges. We challenge them to explore, to find out. That's when they can really understand, master concepts very well. And today, we cannot do without technology. So we are looking at how technology can enhance the solving of problems. And out of this project, the study that I did, I discovered, I came up with conclusions that actually, if we go ahead with using such tools, they can enhance learners a lot of problem solving by learners. They critically think and they work independently.
My study area has been on understanding the epidemiology of ticks and tick-borne infections among cattle in the Karamoja sub-region. My study tried to explore the qualitative aspects that influence the behavior of the Karimojong pastoralists in the control of ticks and tick-borne diseases. We also wanted to see the level of infestation of cattle with ticks and the number of tick species in the region. We were also interested in seeing the level of infection of cattle with tick-borne diseases, especially those caused by protozoa and rickettsial pathogens. And we were interested in understanding the gene similarity of these infections in Karamoja with those around the world, and most especially those from the East African region. From the study, in the qualitative aspects, we were able to see that Karimonjongs appreciate that tick-borne infections are the most significant impediment to livestock production in the region. And they also appreciate that tick control using acaricide is, according to them, the best method to control ticks. However, their efforts to control ticks are affected by so many factors. They listed poverty, they listed lack of drugs, they listed the unavailability of professionals in the region, lack of knowledge, veterinary knowledge. These were all seen as the major impediments. However, we also noticed that much as Karimonjongs appreciate that ticks could be controlled, they don't regularly apply these control mechanisms. And then in the tick survey, we were able to see that there's a high infestation of cattle with ticks in the region. In fact, Karamoja region recorded 15 tick species in comparison to the other parts of Uganda where cattle record between 4 and 6 species. In fact, in Western Uganda, there are about only 3 or 4 species that are heavily infesting cattle. But in Karamoja region, we were able to detect 15 species infesting cattle, and they infest cattle all year round because control of ticks is low among the pastoralists. We were also able to detect for the first time the Asian tick, Rhipicephalus microplus, which is a new introduction to the region. It is not indigenous to Uganda. And then also in the tick-borne infections, we were able to see that there's a high level of infection of cattle with tick-borne infections, especially those caused by protozoa and rickettsia. And this mirrors the high level of infestation of cattle with the ticks. In the genes, we found out that the genes of the infections of cattle that are in the Karamoja region are much similar to those from the East African region. In fact, they are more similar to those from Tanzania compared to those from Kenya. So that shows that there is interaction between Karamoja, Uganda, and Tanzania. And so that has an implication on the control of these diseases.
My name is Dr. Christopher Chintu, and I've earned my PhD today, which was in bioinformatics from Makerere University, College of Health Sciences. So basically my research was about kidney disease. We were trying to predict how can you tell someone that they have chances of getting chronic kidney disease before it even happens. And what we were trying to basically use is people's DNA which we transform into genetics and genomics. So that is essential because by the time someone gets a disease, most times they are already predisposed to it by their nature, by their ndagabutonde. So we're just trying to get that out and put it out there in Africans. So this research basically started in white people, European people, but then it was not transforming to Africans. And we decided, well, like, since our genetics are different, the European genes are different from the African genes, why don't we do it in Africans? So we collaborated with people from UK, from the USA, and then even here to get our research out there. So we basically found that actually, one, the prevalence of kidney disease is highest in black people, generally, even in America. However, we were of course limited by by funding, even the numbers, because to do this research you need a lot of money and a lot of people. So this is like an initiation for people who are coming after us. And this now translates into what the university is up to, because Makerere is a research-based university. And now the kind of research that we've done is kind of new science or new research that will now be transformed by other people that are coming up to us. So that will also help the university in terms of rankings, because world over universities are ranked by their research. So this, we believe, is a pioneer. I'm a pioneer candidate for this type of research, and I'm one of the first people, and we believe that the other people that are coming, we paved the way for them to come.
My name is Dr. Samuel Kahesi Kusima. I've attained a PhD in Environment and Natural Resources. I tried to determine the nexus between land use, land cover change, the supply of ecosystem services, and human well-being in Budongo Bugoma landscape, Midwestern Uganda. I established that from the year 1990 to date, the natural ecosystem services were on the decline, while the human-dominated ecosystems were on an upward trend. This was impacting on the supply of ecosystem services, especially the regulating type, and it was also influencing the human well-being. I've come up with a number of recommendations that can help the community to make use of land in a sustainable manner. One is the adoption of agroecology in farmlands, both subsistence and commercial. I've also recommended integrated landscape management because it promotes livelihoods but also caters for conservation. I've also recommended that government and partners in environment conservation to promote incentivized conservation approaches so that what has been predicted to happen in the year 2040 of having human-dominated ecosystems cover more than 53% is halted and if not reversed.
My name is Stella Bigira Ayesiga. I just gotten my PhD in plant breeding and biotechnology, titled The Resistance of Tropical Maize Germplasm to Ear Rot Caused by Fusarium vacillodis in Uganda. This was aimed at developing materials, contributing to the development of materials that are resistant to maize ear rot, especially caused by Fusarium ear rot. Ear rots cause a lot of losses to maize farmers. In addition to yield loss, they also form what we call mycotoxins. We have aspergillus causing aflatoxin, and then what I worked on, Fusarium ear rot causing fumonsins. These are a great danger because they've been linked to cancer. And also when we try to export our maize that have these mycotoxins, it's brought back. So that is a huge loss to the farmers and to the country at large. So the aim of my study was to come up with materials that are resistant to this ear rot, and these can be used by the farmers. So when the farmers have these materials, these maize lines that are resistant, they're able, one, to boost their yields and also have disease-free fields. And also in the long run, we are able to export our maize, or within even us, we're able to eat healthy maize.
My name is Patience Agavire Mujuni. I studied information practices of students with visual disabilities and how to access and utilize digital information sources in university libraries. I focused at Chambogo and Makerere University. The study found out that these resources are not easily accessible, majorly because they lack training, which means they do not have the skills. The library websites are also inaccessible. The design is not favorable for students with visual disabilities. And also, I found that the infrastructure is still very low, which affects them in access and utilize digital information resources. Now, from the findings, students have developed their own reactive mechanisms. For example, they ask their fellow friends, peer-to-peer support, to train and access assistive technologies. The study recommends a framework that can be used in these university libraries to create and build resources that are accessible by students with visual disabilities. Once this has been explored, once this framework has been followed, of course, we will be able to minimize the challenges students with visual disabilities encounter to access digital information resources in university libraries.
Makerere University is determined to transform from just being educational, but to be a university at the forefront of impactful research. Research that can transform communities, research that can solve the prevailing human needs. I'm of a similar view. That's the way to go, because gone are the days when research work would end up in journals and on the shelves. Around now, we need to look at the challenges that we are grappling with as a country, as a global village. Issues of climate change, issues of the food system being resilient, issues of employment, issues of resilience. So that's the way to go. These are steps in the right direction. During the pilgrimage, academic pilgrimage, my supervisors were intentional to make sure that my study was going to answer some of the prevailing challenges to do with sustainability.
So when we concentrate so much on research, one, it's for the greater good. It's not just me as a student benefiting, no. Again, because like for my research, I went to different parts of the country, collecting samples and also interacting with farmers. So when you do this research, you're able to touch base with the people who are going to use these materials. For example, now that as plant breeders, our aim is getting our materials being used, getting our varieties being used by farmers. So when you're doing research, that will easily lead to our materials being adopted, and also increase in getting rid of these factors.
You know, research is more practical, and the community has so many challenges. Now, for example, if I take the example of my research, very many people with visual disabilities do not access, not only visual disabilities, do not access information. For example, look at our voters register. They do not have Braille, which means it excludes people with visual disabilities. So if Makerere can take up the research into the community, we should be able to solve socioeconomic problems that we have always faced as communities, as individuals, and this will help us, of course, to take our communities to another level.
New Vision TV. Stream smart, stream New Vision.